It was not yet noon when they pulled into the motel. Rain in the early morning had rinsed the air and left it fresh and cool, tasting of the fall to come. Lee's father set the handbrake, but left the engine running as he got out, boots crunching in the gravel. Lee crawled halfway over the front seat to look at the dashboard clock. He crossed the fingers on both hands, daring to hope that the day's driving was already over, that they would not have to try motel after motel. Lee had a good feeling about this one. Its wooden siding was the color of milk chocolate, and the air through his open window tickled his nose with the green scent of pines and junipers. There was even a pool, though in truth it was too cold to think about swimming. A white-haired lady opened cabin 7 for Lee's father, and a few seconds later Lee heard a toilet flush, followed by a repeated clacking as his father tested the lock on the front door. Finally he came out nodding, and then stood for a moment in the watery sunshine, long-sleeved khaki shirt buttoned to the throat, hands in the pockets of his pleated trousers, looking into the distance. Lee tried to smile at his mother, who seemed oblivious. They locked their suitcases in the room and drove back into town. Lee's father was whistling now, his right arm up on the seat back, his left elbow propped in the window, as if he were another man entirely from the one who'd been driving with fierce concentration since dawn. "So," he said to Lee's mother, "what do you think? Nice place, huh?" She smiled bravely. "Very nice." "There's a Rexall," Lee said, "with a fountain. Can we? His father sighed. "I suppose so." They parked and Lee ran ahead. Hand-lettered signs in the drugstore window advertised typing paper, Alka-Seltzer, cold cream. The sweet smell of frying meat hung in the air inside. Lee spun himself around and around on his chrome and red vinyl stool while his father read the menu. "Stop that," his father said, and Lee faced the counter, sitting on his hands to help himself keep still. When it was his turn, Lee ordered a hamburger and a chocolate milkshake, and then asked, "Can I look around?" His father seemed to be studying himself in the long mirror behind the fountain. "Go," he said. On a wire spin rack, Lee found a Jules Verne he'd never seen before, a movie tie-in edition of Master of the World with Vincent Price on the cover. He stashed the book behind a stack of moonrakers and moved on to the toy aisle. The cramped space was filled with Duncan yo-yos, Wham-O slip-and-slides, and Mattel cat pistols. On the bottom shelf, Lee found a wiffle ball and orange plastic bat that filled him with a longing he thought might overwhelm him. He went back to the lunch counter and wolfed his food, then sat with his arms wrapped around his narrow chest, trying to gauge his father's mood while struggling with his own impatience, hope, and fear. His father ate slowly, drank a second cup of coffee, and smoked a cigarette while Lee's mother applied a fresh coat of lipstick. Finally, Lee's father stood up with the check and started for the register by the front door. Lee tugged at his father's pants leg and showed him the book. His father glanced at it and nodded. "Okay." He seemed distracted in a mild, pleasant way, so Lee pressed his advantage. "Look," he said, and showed his father the bat and ball. "I thought you wanted the book." He didn't seem angry, so Lee said, "Can I have this and the book too? What would you do with it? If I get this job, I'm not going to have time to play with you." Lee knew his father wouldn't have time to play with him in any case, but he was caught by something in his father's voice. His father was thinking about the job in the same way that Lee was thinking about the bat and ball. And though Lee knew, even at 10 years old, that the job would not work out, the hope itself was contagious. "Please?" he said. In the car, Lee's father said Roger Maris back there is going to teach himself baseball and become a sports hero and the envy of all his friends, if he had any. The bat and ball were attached with wire to a long